The winter air rule our grandparents followed without ever writing it down. Cold season homes of the early 20th century stayed dry, warm, and remarkably healthy because their owners followed one simple principle: never trap stale winter air indoors. They didn't call it building science, but they understood air exchange, moisture control, and heat retention through daily practice. This guide breaks down that winter air rule exactly as it was lived, not theorized, and shows how it can still be applied today by anyone serious about long-term home resilience. The rule was simple. Cold air moves moisture out. Trapped air destroys houses. Older homes were managed with the understanding that moisture was the real enemy, not cold. Grandparents knew that damp air rots wood, grows mold, worsens respiratory illness, and makes a house harder to heat. Their solution was controlled ventilation even in freezing weather. They allowed small amounts of cold, dry winter air to enter the home while giving warm, moist air a clear path out. This constant but gentle exchange kept interior humidity low without stripping heat unnecessarily. They did this instinctively by cracking windows briefly, opening attic vents, maintaining chimneys, and never sealing a house airtight during winter. A home that could breathe stayed healthier and lasted longer. Winter air naturally holds far less moisture than summer air. When cold outdoor air enters a warm interior, its relative humidity drops dramatically as it warms. Grandparents used this to their advantage. Short, deliberate air exchanges remove cooking steam, breathing moisture, and dampness from laundry without letting walls or furniture cool down. So, a common practice was airing rooms once or twice daily and usually for only a few minutes. People would open the windows just enough to refresh the air, then close them before the surfaces lost too much heat. The goal here was really air replacement, not temperature equalization. This simple habit prevented condensation on walls, windows, and ceilings, which, as you probably know, is where rot and mold can begin. Today, the same principle still applies. If you open two windows on opposite sides of the house for, say, 3 to 5 minutes, you get a fast cross-flow that replaces indoor air efficiently. If you do it right, the house warms back up quickly, but the moisture is gone. Wood stoves, coal stoves, and fireplaces were not just heat sources, you know. They were actually powerful ventilation engines. A burning stove pulls fresh air into the house while pushing stale air up the chimney. And even when the fire was low, the chimney draft kept on removing moist air. You know, grandparents never sealed unused chimneys completely in winter. Even with a closed damper, there was still a bit of movement, which actually helped prevent moisture buildup. This constant upward airflow, well, it dried the structure from the inside out. These days, in modern homes, a properly vented wood stove, a pellet stove, or even a controlled exhaust fan can do pretty much the same thing. The key thing is making sure air has a reason to move upward and out, instead of just sitting around and stagnating in your living spaces. Attics, honestly, were never meant to be sealed boxes. In older homes, folks used ridge vents, gable vents, or even just simple gaps under the eaves to let cold air circulate above the ceiling. This kept the roof timbers dry and stopped warm, moist indoor air from condensing in the insulation or wood framing. By keeping the attic cold and dry, snow on the roof melted evenly or not at all. Ice dams were rare because heat wasn't trapped at the roofline. The structure stayed intact for decades. Applying this today means ensuring attic vents are clear, insulation is properly placed on the ceiling plane, and moisture is not allowed to rise unchecked. Even a small blocked vent can undo the entire system. Dry air heats faster and feels warmer. Grandparents understood this through experience. A damp house always felt cold, even with a strong fire burning. By keeping humidity low, they reduced fuel consumption and improved comfort. You know, low indoor humidity also limited dust mites, mold spores, and bacteria. Winter coughs and respiratory issues were honestly a lot less common in well-ventilated homes than in those sealed, smoky, and damp dwellings. Modern homes often suffer because they trap moisture from showers, cooking, and even just breathing, while relying on constant heat. Restoring controlled ventilation, well, it brings back the balance that older generations managed to maintain naturally. This rule doesn't mean leaving your windows open all day. What it really means is short, intentional air exchanges. A modern application could include, say, opening windows briefly after cooking, showering, or drying clothes indoors. And, using bathroom and kitchen exhaust fans for short bursts achieves the same effect, as long as they vent outdoors properly. So, in colder climates, running a dehumidifier during winter might seem a bit counterintuitive, but honestly, it supports the same goal. You want to keep indoor humidity somewhere between 30 and 40%. If you let it go above that range, condensation and mold risks can increase really rapidly. Sealing obvious drafts around doors and windows is still super important. The rule here is controlled airflow, not just uncontrolled leakage. Air should move where you want it to move and only when you want it to move. Homes that manage moisture last longer, require fewer repairs, and remain livable during extended power or fuel shortages. A dry house can be heated with less energy and fewer resources. Structural wood stays strong. Stored supplies are protected from dampness. In grid-down scenarios, the ability to ventilate manually becomes critical. Windows, vents, and chimneys that still function allow a home to regulate itself without electricity. This is exactly why older homes perform so well during long winters with limited fuel. Understanding and applying the winter air rule is not nostalgia. It is practical resilience grounded in proven history. This knowledge kept generations warm, dry, and healthy without technology or excess fuel. If you found value in reclaiming these forgotten principles, support the channel by subscribing, sharing this guide with fellow historians and survivalists, and keeping these lessons alive. Warfield Prepper Chronicles exists to preserve what worked, not what was marketed.